All right, the spiritual mandate. The spiritual mandate. Bishop Oyedepo orders Living Faith members to get PVCs. A massive spiritual shockwave has hit the 2027 electoral landscape directly from the pulpit during yesterday's Sunday service at the Faith Tabernacle in Ota, Ogun State. Living Faith Church founder Bishop David Oyedepo issued a powerful charge to his global congregation, ordering all members to immediately secure their permanent voters card, PVCs, reminding them of their civil duty as bona fide citizens represented across 144 nations. The bishop strictly maintained a position of political neutrality, refusing to name any specific candidate or party, and instead urging members to vote purely by personal conviction. This neutral, high-impact message has drawn widespread praise across the country, heavily contrasting with the highly partisan stances of other religious leaders as Nigerians' voter registration drive accelerates. So, when a religious leader with millions of disciplined followers tells his church to go out and get their PVCs without telling them who to vote for, the entire political system sits up. Hopefully, we know that voter apathy has historically kept millions of believers away from the booth. Will this massive non-partisan spiritual mandate trigger an unprecedented surge in registration that completely disrupts the plans of the major party godfathers? Or will the raw machinery of traditional politics still drown out the voice of personal conviction by 2027? I'm particularly interested in this, in your analysis of this, because Nigeria is probably the number one most spiritual nation in the world. Probably is the keyword, but I can bet my monthly livelihood on it, right? So I want to hear your take on this. Is this good news? Is this bad news? Is this just business as usual? Now, I think they said something about historically Nigerian youth, I mean, more and more people are coming out, but are we expecting a wave now, considering that also that we're in a social media era, and, small, little by little, people are saying, social media president, they're saying it less by the year. It used to be like 6 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. It was like that social media president is not going anywhere. But I think the politicians are scared of social media now. What's your analysis of this? Is this good news, sir?
Yeah. As you're asking and giving the synopsis to this segment, I was thinking deeply and on what to say and what not to say, but we will say everything and spare nothing. Yeah, it's good news that Reverend Oyedepo or Bishop or Archbishop Oyedepo. I also know that in some enlightened circles in Nigeria, as journalists, we are cynical about everything from everything. And I've been around some of my influential colleagues, especially some very senior journalists in Nigeria, and the way they always address Bishop Oyedepo has always been like calling him Papa. And honestly, if I continue to, at the risk of standing off, I will restrain myself from mentioning some of the people that have been around who would eagerly personalize their relationship with Bishop Oyedepo. That is doing this on the side of the Nigerian critical mass is good. However, doing it also in a way that is radically different from what he was accused of doing. Maybe people said through AI, whatever, during the 2023 presidential run, is really a matter of relief. But whatever he did then, he did as a patriotic Nigerian, feeling, and from what we know so far, that there could be some positive alternatives, radical alternatives to what the ruling government, the ruling party had to offer. Now, let me also tell you that he is not alone in whatever must have been going on. You see, if there is anywhere in the world where Christians have refused to embrace political correctness in place of speaking truth to power, Nigeria is one such place. And I was listening to Bishop Stephen Adenioni of Ondo Anglican Diocese, Ondo Diocese. He preached at the valedictory synod session of the outgoing Archbishop Simeon Borokini of Ondo Episcopal province. You know, and Bishop Borokini happens to also be the Bishop of Akure Diocese. So Bishop Oni was preaching at his final synod at St. David's Cathedral in Akure yesterday, and that thing also came in because you watch successions of Anglican primacy in Nigeria, whether you're talking of Jasper Akinola or you're talking of Abiodun Adetiloye, or you're talking of so many of them, you find that tradition of liberation theology amongst Nigerians, Catholics, everywhere in Nigeria. When in this America, people tell me, oh, they want me to be judgmental about Catholics. I said my experience coming from Nigeria is different from your own issues in America. I don't want to be involved in that at all. I grew up knowing Catholics to be capable of all the things that were embraced by the reformers of the church. Say Martin Luther, you know, the experience of Romans chapter 8, the righteous justified by faith. You know, so when they now tell me in America, oh, you must get Catholic or you must embrace Anglican, I said no. I know Christians to be one fold where I'm coming from. When terrorists come after Catholic churches, they don't spare Anglicans, they don't spare Methodists, they don't spare ECWA, they don't spare anybody. And that is why you find the consciousness of what the church is saying today being reflected in the pronouncement made by Bishop David Oyedepo, saying people should get their personal voter's card. Make sure they speak out through their vote. However, I think there is something that is burning into the heart of everybody at this moment, which is franchise commodification in Nigeria, the selling of votes. If you suddenly heard that the balance is not reflected, there is certain deficit in budgeting, as explained by the new minister in charge of finance in Nigeria, Taiwo Oyedele, who must be very careful not to destroy his hard-earned reputation, trying to defend the indefensible. You're talking of 8.8 trillion that is not captured anywhere, that cannot be traced by IMF in Nigerian books. And then you give some funny rationalization to why that is not happening. That money must be hiding somewhere to finance the campaign of the incumbent administration to get back to office in 2027. And some people are already warning us that if we are not careful, the Constitution of Nigeria will be tinkered with, and then there could be a third-term agenda by, say, 2031. Tell me, no matter the level of conscientization going on, no matter the level of mobilization going on, no matter the charge coming from well-respected pulpits, churches, from the what's it called? Minarets of a mosque anywhere in Nigeria. If the administration is intended, it's really intent on bending everything to its own whims and caprices, and the people want to participate in the system, how do we get the system to work in the interest of the people? I know Bishop Oyedepo wants Nigerians to own their democracy. But the government is doing everything possible to make sure that they own it more than the real primary custodians of the system. If you look at what Thomas Jefferson paraphrased and compressed into the introduction to the American Constitution in 1776, coming from people who have been, who have been political philosophers before his own time. You know, say like the man who espoused the theory of social contract. That was what you find in where Thomas Jefferson used his skillful writing skills to craft it with the people. Elsewhere, talking of the self-evident fact of everybody being created equal, although jokingly, the humor of that time was on the fact that they never extended that opportunity to slaves that they kept in millions. I think about 400,000 black slaves in America in 1776. They were not extended the privilege, they were not granted the joy, the privilege, the hope of that self-evident thing that they said that all of us were created equal with certain inalienable rights. And that is what we find that is playing out in Nigeria today. The church is trying, the different religious organizations are pushing to make sure that Nigerian citizens get involved, produce credible alternatives, credible leadership. This is why it is not an accident that the people are no longer incentivized. They don't get so excited to want to say, I want to go out and vote. How did we get to that pass? It's about the commodification of the voting rights of the people, which is what I describe as the franchise commodification. It's almost like using that process to put people in perpetual subjugation, in servitude, in slavery status. They want to really vote and embrace and approach their leaders, but the leaders push them, after. At the eve of election, they roll out missing money from the system. Look at the one they were trying to investigate Pope Uzodima about as the chairman or the whatever of so-called the Progressive Governors Forum, over 800 billion, shed off on each state's allocation every month. What has come of that honest inquiry? It's not going anywhere. So you can say, get your PVC, do this, but when that money that has been taken from the system, when it appears, do you think the vote of any individual Nigerian will count upon that occasion? Some food for thought here. People have always been excited, especially the Gen Zs, Nigerian youths, whether they spoke through EndSARS protests, whether they said, end the bad governance, whether they are saying revolution now, whether they are saying authentic change, whatever they are looking for. The state has always shown up using hard-beating soldiers and policemen to deprive the people of owning the ballot, of expressing themselves through voting rights. And then you are wondering that out of a population that is over 90 million that should ordinarily vote, you said Nigeria, they have always estimated Nigeria as a population, which I said that is grossly exaggerated to be around 230 million to 250 million, whichever figure they want to embrace. Nigerians are not that much. But they put those figures there in order to steal on behalf of the overblown population figure. At the end of the day, you go to the polling booths. Out of estimated population of 230 million people, you don't even find up to 40 million people voting. What kind of population or demographic justification is that? So we will continue to encourage the bishops, the clergy, all of them, and also active members of the laity, to speak up, to make sure that Nigeria belongs to all Nigerians. But with those who are determined to keep Nigeria down, to make sure Nigeria does not smell that air of real liberation and freedom, would they allow for it? That is what we all must ponder about as we approach that moment that Bishop David Oyedepo is talking about our voters' card. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Join the conversation in the comment section. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notification. And we have some other stuff we want to talk about. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.